So let's go to the next section, navigating the file system. This is a basic overview of the Linux file system concepts. It's not an in-depth description of file system types. There are several, and we're not going to talk about that. The main thing is, how do I change directories? How do I list files? How do I navigate around the Linux file system and use files and directories? You will learn about paths and options, or flags as they are often called, arguments to shell commands. You will learn about tab completion. So the Linux file system directory structure, it starts with the top root directory, which is always shown like this here, a slash. Below this are several other standard directories. If you are on a Linux computer, usually there will be user bin, on home, user lib 64, also often user local bin. Those directories contain binaries. Home is the home directory for all the users, so all the users will be below that. User lib contains libraries, and then there is one for 64-bit libraries. And often there are also some local binaries which are made specifically for the system instead of, or specifically installed instead of coming with the operating system. This picture on the right here, it shows the typical subdirectories under the root, the slash. The command tree doesn't work at all HPC Center, but it does work on Tetralit. Under the extra session in the menu, there is a page about using tree and also how to install it for yourself if it's missing. Some of the directories have a symbolic link. That's often done to make it quicker to write, but it can also be for compatibility reasons, since some software have hard-coded paths, and we will talk about that. I'm now going to write tree here at Tetralit. And as you can see here, it shows the file structure of this, all subdirectories below where you are standing. So this is all the directories and the files. And you can see here the directories are marked with blue and the files with white. It varies. It does that some places, others not. I believe tree is not installed at HPC2N. It's not. But I could open another shell here. This is my own home computer, and I could go to the root and then do tree from there. And you can see there's a horrible large number of files because I have a lot of stuff installed. But you can also, I'm going to stop this. You can also give a command to only see the first level of them, and I'm going to do that instead. Then you get something similar to what I did here. So you can see here, I have this bin directory, user bin, and I also have a symbolic link that points to it. So I can use both bin and user bin to mean the same. But otherwise, I have the directories I talked about and some extra ones. The path or path name, you will hear that often when we talk about Linux. And that's a representation of the location of a file or folder on a computer file system. And this we already talked about. There is also another directory you often see, which is /opt, and that's user installed binaries if it's a local Linux computer, if it's your own one. This is another way you could illustrate it. Instead of doing like this, you could sort of turn it over and then show it as folders. And then you have the root folder, and under that you have all these other folders I mentioned. Here's home, which goes off and becomes which has all these users directories under it. And there is the slash user slash bin lib and so on, and many more folders. You can create more, of course. So remember, the slash, it can be the root directory, if it's alone or if it's in front of a file or a directory name. Or it can be a separator, if it's in any other position within the path. You see it here, to dividing the different directories in the path. If you're on a local cluster or on a ESPC center, etc., any place where you're not root, you'll be in your home directory by default when you log in. You can use cd ... There needs to be a space between a couple times to go to the root of the system and do tree there if you want. You can also do tree in your home directory, and if tree is installed, I suggest doing it in your home directory, because otherwise you will get a huge output. You can always return to your home directory with just cd. It's simply, if you don't say anything else, it goes to your home directory. It's great if you have moved around a lot of directories and somehow gotten lost in them, then you can just sort of reset. So yes, you will get a huge output on a supercomputing center, but you can add, let's see if I can open this in new tab so it gets a little bit larger. You can add -dx minus capital L1, then you only get one level of output instead of going down into the directories. So here again, let's see, let's go down here. If you are on Tetralit as an example, there would be the root, and then if we look specifically at the home directory, under that we would have users, and under user you have bin lib, and this is similar on many systems. There will be a /home/users or a /home/first letter of your username/user. So it depends. It's either one of those two usually on SPC systems. So we are in our home directory, and your home directory will be shown like this often in the prompt. You can also use it instead of having to type out home/username. And the path will vary. These are some examples on how it looks. And this is some example of where I would have my home directory, the path to that. And you can see on Kebnekaise, the path is a bit longer because there's a subdirectory for each letter or first letter of the usernames. There is a useful command, and I think try and type it now. It gives the path to your current working directory, pwd print working directory, and let's try do that here. And you can then see /home/username/ the intro Linux you created, and then exercises. And it looks a little bit different at SPC2N, and it will look a little bit different on any other system you are at, but not a lot. There's also an environment variable, which they are called, and we'll talk about those in a little while, that can be used as a shortcut for the path. It's $home. So you can either call it /home/username or $home or the tilde character. All of those are the home directory. Different names for them, and it varies a little what is most useful. And here are some examples of how it looks when you do print working directory in your home directory. You can try do it also in this intro Linux exercises directory or in any other directory. So you simply use it whenever you're unsure where you are in your file structure. You type pwd and you can see what it is. And cd goes to your home directory. ls, listing files and directories. If you just give the command ls, as you have seen me do now sometimes, with no flag, it will list all files and subdirectories, except for hidden files, which are often configuration files. That means that you can list files and subdirectories in any directory, but default one is the one you are standing in. If you say ls/, you get the content of the root directory, like this. If you say ls, a space and 2 dots, it will be the directory above the one you are currently in. If you say ls and a tilde, you will get the content of your home directory. And if you say ls star, star being short for everything, it lists the content of the directory you're currently in as well as the subdirectories of it. Common flags is -a. Flags and options are the same. It's often called flags instead of options. If you add -a to ls, it will list the content including any hidden files and directories. There won't really be any in this here, so there's no interest in that here. -l will list content in long format. That means it lists not just the name, but also the permissions, the owners, the byte size, how big is the file, modification date and time, as well as the name of it. So let's try do that, like this here. So here you see the permissions. We'll talk about those. And you also see who owns it. And you see the size, and you see the date it was most recently changed. And then you see the time and also what it's called. So if you add H, it also adds a column in human readable. So you see here, this one here in bytes becomes 4 kilobytes instead. So it might be easier to look over it in human readable format. T lists the content sorted by last modification date, and if you add an R, it reverses it. S lists files with sizes. You can always do the commands, some command --help, it will maybe give you output, or man the command will also often give you output. These are great ways to see what options are there. You can see ls --help give you a lot of output. Man ls gives you the manual page for the command ls. And here there are lots of options with descriptions, and usually there are examples at the bottom as well. So let's try move around a little bit here. I mostly already did this, but I'm going to go into one of the subdirectories. And let's see what we have here. Let's go into my test dir. And you should try do these things also. So try do cd into various directories here and try do ls and see what is there. And try change it, ls -la. You can also try do this on the home directory, like that. And here you see lots of more stuff here, including a lot of configuration files, which are now shown because I added -A to show the hidden files. But I am here in the subdirectory mytestdir under exercises, under the directory intro Linux I created. And let's try and see what happens when I say this here. You see here you've got human readable size. And I am going to list them with the creation date. And I'm going to add an R to see now it's reversed. So you can either get your newest files at the top or at the bottom. This is a functionality I really like, because if I have a lot of files and I'm looking for the newest files or something I know I created the last few days, but I don't remember what I called it. So I just use this command. I get the newest files at the bottom. I use that a lot. And then you can have ls star to see the content of this directory and the one below it. There are two directories in this directory, and this is the content of each of them. I can just very briefly say that, as I mentioned, these are permissions, and we'll talk about them later under scripting. But it comes in groups, and the D means it's a directory. If there's nothing, it's a file. If there's an S, it's a symbolic link. There are permissions for the user, for the group the user is in, and for everyone else. Readable, writable, executable. And that's all we are talking about now. We come back in scripting. Wildcards. We already saw some wildcards. We saw star. Star is a wildcard. It's a stand-in for one or more characters or numbers that you use when you find patterns or when you're removing or listing files of a certain type. They are also called glob or globbing patterns. There is some information here if you want to read it. Common wildcards. A question mark is a single character. A star or an asterisk is a string of characters of 0 or more length. And these hard parentheses, a range of alphanumeric characters in ascending order. Curly brackets, the terms are separated by commas. Each term must be a wildcard or exact name. We will go to some examples in a moment. If you put a exclamation mark between hard parentheses, it's a not. And it means that any character that is not listed between those two hard parentheses is matched. A slash, backslash specifies an escape character. You can use it if you have special characters because some of them have special meaning. For instance, maybe you wanted to match on a curly bracket, and you can't just do that. You have to add a backspace. And it happens sometimes that you need quotation marks around them. They are typically case sensitive, and you should pay attention to that. So if you type something like this, it will match all uppercase letters from T through Z, and then also all lowercase letters from A through G, but not uppercase G and lowercase t. So remember, it's case sensitive. In many commands, like ls and also many others, you can use -I to ignore case. Often useful. If you're searching for a file, you don't know if it's uppercase or lowercase. To try some of these commands, I suggest now going to the directory exercises patterns. So I was now in my test dir. I'm going up. I'm now in exercises. I have the file, the directory patterns. I'm going into it. You can see here there's a lot of files, and we are now going to play with them. If you use this, if you say files named my file, question mark dot text, it matches all files, my file 0, my file 1, etc. All letters from capital A to capital Z to lowercase a to lowercase z, as well as all numbers from 0 to 9. So let's try do ls, my file, and then I'm going to add a question mark and dot text. It matched all the my file ones here. If you had a string R asterisk D, this matches red, rad, Ronald, anything that starts with R and ends with R, including just RD, because this asterisk is 0 or more. If you instead have R and then in the hard brackets, for instance, AIO, and then CK outside, it will match Rack, Rick, and Rock. Only one letter and only one of those. A and then the range D to J. A matches any three-letter word starting with A and ending with A, and has any character between them that is between D and J. We could try do ls A G minus J A. And there are indeed three files, ada, afa, aya, that it matches, but it does not match ama, because that is not between D and J. 0 to 9 matches a range of number from 0 to 9. You can put more stuff into it. You can, for instance, say, I want to copy everything I list within the curly brackets to my home directory. And inside the curly bracket, I say every file ending in the suffix dat or the suffix c or the suffix pdf. All those files, copy them to my home directory. You can test it if you want to. You can create some files with touch and run command and see that it actually copies only that, because I don't have anything else in this directory which matches it. You can also remove with wildcards, remove this file and then hard brackets, not 8, and then a asterisk means any file matching per this file, and then any number not 8, and then followed by anything. And you can try do that. Of course, you can always recreate it by untar the file again, but we can also just do an ls on this here, because that is the safe way of checking before you remove something. That is to just do ls first. So let's try do that. And as you see here, it matches all this files except the one with 8, which is not here. So if you do remove on this, all these files are gone. CD, changing directories. We talked about this before. If you say CD or CD tilde, you go to your home directory. CD and some directory, you go to that directory. And it can also be a path to a directory. And CD space 2 dots, change to the parent directory of the current directory. And a very useful command here, cd and align, you go back to the previous working directory. See, this is my current working directory. I say cd, I am now in my home directory. I say cd space align. I'm now back in the working directory. Very useful. This example here simply shows the exercises directory you got after extracting the table. $home tilde your home directory /home / your username. And you already tried these things. So you can use full paths. Absolute paths is the same thing, or you can use relative paths. The difference is an absolute path makes no assumption about the current location in relation to the location of the file or directory you want to access. It's the location as seen from the root of the file system. Absolute paths are required if the file or directory you want to access is not in your current directory or any subdirectory therein. A path with reference to current directory is a relative path. Relative path only explicitly specifies subdirectories of your current directory, leaving the part of the path from the root to the current directory implicit. So if I wanted to go to exercises my test year, I would do cd home and my username and intro Linux and exercises and my test year. So this is the absolute path, the full path. I'm there now. If on the other hand, I just want to go to test tier 1 from where I am now, I don't need the full path. I just say test tier 1. I'm there, and that was a relative path. And I'm not going to go through the summary because I'm late. So it's now Rebecca's time.